It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to educating, entertaining, and discussion of firearms, legislation, and your Second Amendment rights. Presented in part by the Illinois State Rifle Association, Illinois Gun Works, Pelcher's Shooting Supply, and Safer USA. Now here's your host, firearm instructor, educator, and enthusiastic Second Amendment proponent, David Lombardo.
Welcome to On Target Radio, America's voice for the Second Amendment. I'm David Lombardo, and my co-host Tim Dalan sitting across the council from me. Say hello, Timmy.
Hello.
Timmy. Okay. We're here every Sunday night from 9 to 10 p.m. talking about all things Second Amendment. And that's your opportunity to call in and talk to our guests. Tonight we'll be talking about CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program. And our guests are going to be Frank Bernstein and Rich Smith from the Aurora Sportsmen's Club. And later in segment 3, we'll have Don Moran, president of the Illinois State Rifle Association, weighing in on what's happening legislatively and what's going on. So it should be a good evening. We'll be taking your questions or comments at 312-642-5600, 312-642-5600, or go to Facebook, like our page On Target Radio, and ask a question there. But first, it's David's Rant of the Week.
Yay.
Well, thank you for your emotional support, Tim. I appreciate that. This is the conundrum of the Fourth Estate, or why I need an AR-15. That's a good title, don't you think?
I think it's a great title.
I do, too. This is not what Edmund Burke had in mind when he used the term Fourth Estate during a debate in the House of Commons of Great Britain. It marked the lifting of a ban on press coverage of the British Parliament in 1787. Burke referred to the press as the Fourth Estate, the first three being the clergy, the nobility, and, from a ruling perspective in dead last place, the commoners. It was a landmark decision letting the press cover Britain's political inner sanctum because the press was looking out for the commoners, the little guys, John Q. Citizen. With a tip of the hat to Burke, today's interpretation of the three estates is legislative, judicial, and executive, i.e. the Congress, the courts, and the president. Unlike Burke's time, today's Fourth Estate is, for the most part, in the bag for the Messiah. But that little fact notwithstanding, it's not one whit better if they're in the bag for the guys that turn right when they go to their seats in Congress. The press should be neutral, looking out for the commoners, the little guys, John Q. Citizen. Now, I know my red meat-eating friends are thinking, what the hell does this have to do with my AR-15? Well, that's where it gets interesting. Thomas Jefferson said, I consider trial by jury as the only anchor ever yet imagined by man by which a government can be held to the principles of its Constitution. You see, Jefferson was a Federalist, and he believed that a jury, though not technically a fourth branch of government, limited the power of the three branches. And who is the jury? Well, with apologies to Pogo, I have met the jury, and he is us. With the failure of the press to report the truth, warts and all, and be nothing more than a propaganda machine for one party or the other, we the people must rightfully assume our role as the Fourth Estate. The gun grabbers have given up saying the Second Amendment isn't about the right of people, or they don't want to take away hunting rifles. They've taken a new tack. And the traditions of Saul and Linsky are now chanting it's the people's right to own a firearm for personal protection. Bah humbug. Okay, my red meeting compadres, here it comes. The purpose of the Second Amendment is for the common man to be able to prevent being shackled by the other three estates. It guarantees that common men who far outnumber politicians and judges have the ability to prevent oppression even by force if necessary. Do I think that's likely to happen? No, I don't. But here's the rub. The government has the institutions of the military and law enforcement on their side, if not every member therein. And what is the weapon of choice for the military and law enforcement? The fully automatic M16. It is not coincidental that no army in history has ever gone into combat with handguns. No revolver, no semi-auto pistol, no hunting rifle or shotgun is a match for an M16. And while our AR-15s may only be semi-auto, we so far outnumber those institutions that it renders it a moot point. Why do I need an AR-15? Because as long as the 80 million gun owners of America have a right to own an AR-15, even the dumbest politician knows the real Fourth Estate renders any forces ineffectual that government might marshal. My AR-15 is truly a peacekeeper. And that, Tim, is my rant for the week.
You know what? After the last several weeks of your rants, I actually like this one.
Is that called a backhanded comment?
Possibly.
Fine.
Or a side-handed insult, one or the other.
I think we're just going to go to our guests, and we're going to get beyond that. And so this evening, you're listening to On Target Radio, which is AM 560, The Answer, and we are talking about the Civilian Marksmanship Program, CMP. And our guests this evening are Frank Bernstein and Rich Smith from the Aurora Sportsmen Club. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
David.
What exactly is the Civilian Marksmanship Program?
Well, the Civilian Marksmanship Program was started really by Theodore Roosevelt.
It goes that far back?
It goes that far back, 1905. It actually started before that. Government issues, the need for having the private populace having some type of marksmanship experience. Possibly having to go into one of the military services. You only have so many farmers and the guys out in the rural areas that have that expertise. City folk in those days, aside from the cowboy years, aren't gun-toting folks. So the need for having somebody with some relative experience when they go into the service, rather than starting purely out cold, was seen, and the CMP program was started.
Roosevelt actually discovered this in Cuba.
Really?
Yes, he did. When he had all the recruits from the East Coast come in, they had to do so much training in marksmanship that they were behind the eight ball on this, as well as outgunned with more modern weapons that the Spanish had in Cuba with the bolt-action Mauser-type rifle.
So from the standpoint of just the very term civilian marksmanship, did they then put together some sort of a program? What was it, voluntary? Or, I mean, how did it work in those days?
It was actually done in 1903. Congress passed an act allowing it to be. Roosevelt put it in 2005. It was actually a department of the Army. Under the auspices of the Army, the Director of Civilian Marksmanship. And then it became the CMP, which is a 501c3, not financed by the government anymore, but it's a civilian organization. But it's there to promote marksmanship, and especially with juniors involved in it also.
That's interesting. I guess I never knew that it went that far back. I thought it was a relatively new program. You're listening to On Target Radio. This is AM 560. The Answer. Tyler on Facebook has asked a question. He said, are you worried about the administration's continued refusal to allow the import of Garands?
Well, I look at these historic items. They're a collector's piece, as well as it's a sport to shoot, but it's a hobby to collect. What happens is other people won't have an opportunity to buy this type of firearm. Certainly the original ones. There are commercial vendors building Garands these days. New version.
Yeah.
But mil-spec versions. So when the original stuff dries up, entrepreneurial activities will prevail and guns will be built.
But the collectability is not there.
No.
It's not an original military-issued M1 Garand.
The ones that are in circulation now out of CMP came from, World War II?
World War II. There was roughly 6 million Garands built. They were developed over a period of about 10 years. And after the war, they went back into the armories and then were subsequently distributed to various countries on Lend-Lease and other programs. The Garand was used up through 1957. And is still being used today by other countries, not just honor guard folks here in the States.
And the Garand was replaced by what? The M14?
M14 in 1957, I believe.
57, right.
It was the M14 went back to 57? Because we had we started when I went to Vietnam in the beginning. That's what we had.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah, there was a need for higher capacity than the 8-round end-block clip. And as a segue, the first series, when the Garand was under development, it was a magazine-fed firearm. And then between Pedersen and who else was involved with that, Rich?
That was Garand developed the clip along with the clip-fed piece of the M1, but it was originally designed as a detachable box magazine.
Right. Who originally built that?
The Garand was built in those days by Winchester, for starters, and then basically a number of manufacturers who had machining capability during the war built any number of pieces.
Just built in mass.
In mass.
Yeah, which is basically when you ramp up, that's what they do, right? Somebody invents the firearm, but then the contract goes out to produce.
Yeah, and interestingly enough,
we'll get back to that. Interestingly enough, after these brief messages, you're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560, The Answer.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560, The Answer, with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
Tim, I like it. The new bumpers, the guys coming in. It's almost like a soft jazz voice.
He sounds like he's introducing a stripper at a strip club.
Thank you very much for that. And now, the moment that all of you have been waiting to run out and make popcorn while this is happening, this will be Tim's Fighting Back segment. Take it away, Tim.
As brought to you by the Illinois State Rifle Association. A suspect who was shot by a McLeod, Oklahoma homeowner during a reported overnight burglary remained hospitalized Friday. Police said the shooting incident occurred about 4:18 a.m. Thursday morning, January 24th, at a home on the city's south side after the homeowner awoke to find a burglar coming through a door of his home. The homeowner, in fighting back, drew his firearm and fired, wounding the intruder, who then fled the scene. The homeowner called police and reported he had just shot a man, the officer stated. Hours later, a 26-year-old man arrived at a city hospital with a gunshot wound, claiming he had been shot somewhere in the vicinity of the home invasion. Police were then able to link the wounded man to the case. The homeowner, who the officer described as an older gentleman, was extremely shaken up following the ordeal, but the police said that he did the right thing. They're happy that he did what he did. He protected himself, and they don't anticipate seeking any charges, but they have had to report it to the district attorney's office for consideration. This has been Fighting Back, brought to you by the Illinois State Rifle Association.
Thank you so much, Tim. I truly appreciate that. Where exactly on the body is that place that he was shot, where the home invasion is? Where is it right below the tibula or what?
Just said he shot a man.
Thank you. We are talking this evening about the Civilian Marksmanship Program. You're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560, The Answer. And our guests this evening are Frank Bernstein and Rich Smith from the Aurora Sportsmen's Club. So we talked a little bit about the history of CMP. What is CMP today?
CMP today is focused on marksmanship training for younger people, as well as focusing on the safe operation and becoming knowledgeable with firearms in a safe way, really.
We basically use 3 different firearms when we're working with people. We have an hour and a half of orientation and safety training in a classroom setting, And it takes approximately an hour and a half in range time where we put people through a simulated national match. We walk them through them. We have range safety officers and certified instructors out there every step of the way with everyone. We don't need anyone with a lot of experience, but we have people with everything from never having fired a gun before to people who do this on a regular basis and come out to practice, and we fit that in. And by the time someone who comes in with absolutely no experience with the firearm leaves, they're comfortable with it and they know it's safe.
They're smiling when they leave.
They have fun.
They had fun.
Now, you can choose your firearm, right?
Yes, we make 3 different types of firearms available: the M1 Garand, the M1 Carbine, and the AR-15.
And so you sign up in advance for it? Is that how it works?
Sign up. We have a call-in generally the Saturday before the event. Call in and sign up. We average on an annual basis over our 5 clinics probably around 250, 260 people.
Really?
Yes. In addition to the clinics and what usually is the dog days of winter, January, February, and March, we have cleaning parties. We do the M1 Garand in January, the M1 Carbine in February, and AR-15 in March.
Well, now, when you say cleaning party, these are open to the public to learn how to clean the firearm.
Open to the public. It's $20. You bring in your own firearm. No live ammunition allowed in the place. And we teach you how to completely tear it down, what to do, what not to do, and how to properly service it and maintain it.
We'll even show them how to put it back together.
Yes, that's
taking it apart is the easy part.
Extra charge.
Will you do that with a Ruger Target 2 also? Could I bring in my box of parts?
No, we'll leave that to you.
No.
We don't do Ruger Target 2s.
We don't do suitcase guns.
Okay. Well, and I have one. I religiously clean that Ruger every 10 years, whether it needs it or not. Is there an age limit then?
In terms of the
Who can take the clinic?
The clinics,
we can handle as young as 10 or 12 years old.
Yes.
And we'll put them on the carbine and one-on-one instructor with them. If they're mature enough to come out and do that, then we'll assess that.
And the carbine has almost no recoil.
Well, the carbine was basically designed around the cartridge, as opposed to the gun being designed first. The cartridge was designed. It's basically a pistol cartridge. It was the carbine was designed to replace the 1911 sidearm, primarily for non-combatants initially, and then the airborne guys loved them because of the weight, and they developed the folding stock, and they could carry more ammunition and not have to carry around a 9.5-pound Garand.
Is this program offered in other places?
Not the way we offer it, because we will. And people can bring their own firearms out also if they want to shoot them. Their own Garands. We've had people bring out 03s and Mosin Nagants, but they have to supply their own ammunition when they bring out something that's not standard to us, which is 30-06 M1 carbine ammunition or 223 5.56 for the AR.
And the other thing is you don't have to have a FOID card to participate.
Because it's a supervised event.
It's a supervised event, and we have NRA range officers, RSOs.
Certified instructors will be with the non-FOID people.
Yeah. Right. Nicholas on Facebook asks, in regards to collecting or purchasing a Garand, what are some good things to look for? How do you know when you're what you're buying that you're getting a quality rifle?
Well, the first thing you want to do is look at the crown of the muzzle and make sure that's round, still round, because a lot of the Garands have been cleaned with multi-piece steel rods and you have to clean it from the muzzle end. It gets a lot of wear there, and if that crown isn't perfectly round, it's going to affect, because that's the last thing that the bullet touches.
It leaks gas around the bullet.
Right. Yeah, and it's going to come out wobbling if it's ovoid rather than round.
Then you have to make sure the head space is checked and checking the throat erosion. Certainly head space and throat erosion relative not only to accuracy but safety. You don't want the gun to blow up.
Sure.
So, make sure that it goes into battery completely and you have a safe firearm.
And is that something that the average person can do?
You'll need a gauge to check the throat erosion in the headspace. You can visually look at the crown. You also want to look at the receiver and make sure there are no cracks in there.
Yeah.
When you take it apart, you want to look at the bridge and the receiver and make sure that there's nothing cracked in there.
It's always good practice to take the gun, if you purchase it from an individual or one of the available online through an FFL, is to take it to an armorer and have the gun checked before you shoot it.
Taking anything to an armorer has become a challenge. Just finding a gunsmith.
Yes.
I mean,
that absolutely, it's not easy to find. But that's where our maintenance and cleaning parties come in. Unfortunately, we just did an M1 party in January, but we will look at it and go over it with you and see what it looks like to us.
Chris on Facebook asked that specific question. He said, would the CMP be able to refer him to someone who can assess his M1A?
Yes, we have people in our group, in the club, that are familiar with most firearms. I have an M1A as well as a Garand as well as a carbine. I teach 2 of the classes. Rich is teaching the AR. So aside from us, we have a number of people with that expertise that we can check things out.
When we go into the last segment, we'll give out your contact information, and people will have some idea how to get a hold of you.
Great.
And so I think that'll be helpful for anybody who wants to find out. We will give them a shameless plug opportunity to tell you how to get involved with CMP at the Aurora Sportsmen's Club. In terms of cost, we've got about 30 seconds before we go into the next segment. Just in terms of cost, what does this program cost?
The clinics, we hold 5 clinics annually. This year is kind of a unique situation. Normally, it's $50 for 50 rounds, regardless of which firearm you select to use. If you're using one of the guns that we make available in our ammunition, this year is a little kicker with what's going on. We're going to have to charge $10 ammunition surcharge because ammunition has better than doubled. If you can get it.
If you can find it.
Yeah, 223-556 is virtually non-existent, although there is some federal coming into the country from Israel, Federal Independence 556.
We're going to be back with more On Target Radio. You're listening to AM 560 The Answer, and we'll be back after these brief messages.
You can hear Gun Rights Radio Network on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free today at Stitcher.com or in the app stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Gun Rights Radio Network shows can be found under Sources.
Attention firearm owners or those considering exercising your Second Amendment rights. I want to tell you about Illinois Gun Works. From void services and new firearm purchases to gunsmith services and an indoor shooting range, Don and his staff will assist you without attitude or pressure. Need training? Illinois Gun Works' popular Illinois Responsible Firearm Owners class teaches you the regulations to legally defend yourself, own, and transport your firearm. There's a required class for a Chicago firearm permit and popular new shooter familiarization class, including one for women. Now, I took this class and urge you to reserve your spot fast for this fun class. Illinois Gun Works offers a wide selection of training and certification classes, from security work to those just considering ownership, even special group classes. Illinois Gun Works, Chicagoland's full-service firearm headquarters, is located on Grand Avenue, just a block west of Harlem in Elmwood Park. Call 708-452-0040 or visit IllinoisGunWorks.com. That's 708-452-0040.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to western Michigan and southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560, The Answer, with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
Welcome back to On Target Radio. We are taking your calls at 312-642-5600. And while you're at it, go to our Facebook page, On Target Radio, ask a question, and we'll answer it. We now have on with us Don Moran from the Illinois State Rifle Association, president thereof. Don, how are you doing?
Good, David. How are you?
I'm doing good. What's happening with the ISRA? Anything happen with legislation in Illinois?
Well, I'm sure there'll be a litany of things that'll come out on the 29th of January when the legislature goes back into session. There's already some bills being filed, and we'll have our web page up to date before the legislature's back in on the 29th, letting everyone know what bills are out there that we support and which bills we are opposed to.
And on the national level, we've had a revelation recently.
Yeah, I guess Dianne Feinstein came out with her bill. She's never seen a gun she didn't hate. Wish she would spend some of that time trying to fix the real problems that go on in society instead of blaming it on inanimate objects.
Well, and of course, that's always the herald of the anti-gun movement. It doesn't really matter as long as they keep beating the drum. The question that comes to my mind, and you know more about this than I do, certainly, but Harry Reid is the senator from Nevada, and Nevada is a heavily armed state, and I don't mean to be silly about it, but it's true. I mean, Nevadans are, they're big. They're concealed carry guys. I mean, what's the likelihood that him being the senior guy in the Senate is even going to let that come out of a committee?
I'm not. How old is Harry Reid? What terms is Harry Reid going to do? Do you think
he's old?
Do you think that if this is the agenda that they want to push, do you think that he's got a deal cut already for his retirement to go on to something else bigger and better, some alternative employment?
You're thinking that the possibility of quid pro quo going on?
Well, I know that's how Illinois politics works. That's what happens in our state capital. The deals cut every day.
Well, okay, let's say it comes out of committee. What about, there are blue dog Democrats or Southern Democrats who I can't imagine going for a gun ban.
Yeah, well, if they look back at what happened after 1994, I think that, if they're interested in being reelected, the retribution for this, it seems to me the whole thing's kind of silly. It's been shown everywhere that it doesn't work. Gun control doesn't work.
Yeah, but in 94 it didn't do a thing.
So why would anybody from either party want to waste all the political capital to have this argument, to have this debate, to feed the flames of this controversy with people that they know the argument is 90% emotional probably and 10% logical. People love their firearms. They are concerned about losing them and losing, this backward spiral that the anti-gunners want us to take. You take one step backwards and you take another step backwards, you take another step backwards. Somebody told me, he had a good axiom the other day. It said, what if your neighbor put a fence up 30 feet into your backyard? And you went over to the neighbor and said, hey, what the heck are you doing here? You can't infringe on my property. You got to move that fence back. You got to get it off my property. And so he compromises with you, and he moves it back 15 feet. So now it's only 15 feet on your property, and you're supposed to feel good about it. That's what happens in the gun control debate. They always want us to take a step back, give up our rights, give up our rights, give up our rights. It's never the other direction. here in Illinois that the court has ordered them to pass some kind of carry bill in Illinois, and they're already starting to talk about a comprehensive gun bill that would restrict magazines and the types of firearms you could carry, and it's there is no compromise. The court told them they have to pass a bill,
and they're going
to come to us and say we have to give up something else in order for you to pass it, because you have to pass it.
They're going to fight it every inch of the way. You've got about a minute left in the segment, Don. Let's say it gets out of the Senate. We still control the House. I mean, you got about a minute here, but we still control the House, no?
I think some of these bills, the Feinstein's bill, I think because it's so broad, it would have a very difficult time making it through both houses.
My anticipation, and I hate to say this, but my anticipation is that the Republicans, they'll fight back Feinstein's bill, but I'm betting that they're going to crumble on the magazine capacity to say that we're at least trying to help.
I think we both have the same concerns.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm guessing is going to happen, and we both know full well that the number of capacity. Look at New York; it was 15, then it was 10, now it's 7. That's ludicrous.
And it's silly because there's 314 million people in the country. Nobody knows how many firearms there is. Some estimates there's one for every other person. Some estimates are 2 for every person. 50% of long guns are rifles. 80% of handguns are 50% of long guns are semi-automatics. 80% of the handguns are semi-automatics. They all use removable magazines. There's 2 to 20 to 100 magazines for each firearm that's out there. They're not serial numbers. Nobody knows where they're at. So banning them, we banned marijuana in this country. We banned alcohol in this country.
I hear you.
Neither one of them worked. How is it going to work for a magazine?
I hear you, Don. Well, thank you for being on again. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be back with more On Target Radio after these messages.
For 35 years, Pelcher's Shooter's Supply has served the Lansing area. Pelcher's offers new and used firearms sales, appraisals, and gunsmithing service. Pelcher's new spacious showroom has hundreds of major brand firearms and supplies, and PelcherGuns.com features daily specials. Pelcher's Shooter's Supply on the corner of Ridge Road and Henry Street in downtown Lansing. Online at PelcherGuns.com or call 708-474-0662.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560, The Answer, with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
Welcome back to On Target Radio. We are taking your calls at 312-642-5600, or go to Facebook. Like our page On Target Radio, ask a question there. And while you're there, please sign up for our On Target newsletter. It's a free weekly industry newsletter. We're talking about the Civilian Marksmanship Program, and we are talking with friends Frank Bernstein and Rich Smith from the Aurora Sportsmen's Club. What happens if someone wants to buy an M1 Garand? How do we do that?
Well, one of the criteria is to participate in a clinic event like the ones we hold 5 times a year. So probably the best place to buy a Garand, if you're looking for one, is through CMP. In order to purchase that Garand, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be a member of an affiliated club like the Aurora Sportsmen's Club or ISRA and participate in the type of clinic that we hold at the Aurora Sportsmen's Club, which is about a 3-hour session, as Rich said, and then we have live fire exercise, go through all the safety training, how to, what to, range commands, and certainly first and foremost a safe environment for people who experience this type of activity.
I had someone earlier today send me an email, and I actually responded and said call in, but he hasn't. He was asking if we had someone that could sign a form for him, could watch him shoot and sign a form. What is that about?
After people complete our clinic, we give them a certificate of participation, and we send their scorecard that they, and the score is not important. It's the fact that they went through the experience. We send that into CMP, and they can contact CMP. They have their certificate. I recommend they make a copy of the certificate, send that to CMP. That shows that they've completed our clinic and they've gone through the training and they're familiar with the with the rifle, and that's how they get it.
And what is it? What do they cost?
They're different pricing. It's a question of what's available. Typically, it's rack grade, service grade, special grade, investment or collector grade. And right now, probably the best bang for the dollar is the special grade, USGI spec, new barrel, new furniture, new stock, and USGI repark parts and serviced receiver. So it runs right now over $900, and the commercial grades that are available start at about $1,500-$1,600.
So I take it that that's a better quality?
The quality, well, first of all, you're getting a legitimate USGI firearm from World War II.
Do we know where do we know for a fact it's from World War II?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Not from
Korea. It was even used in Vietnam.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do you actually know where it came from? Where it was used, I mean.
Not particularly.
Not necessarily. They've come in from all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see books where I've seen where they say this serial number range was here or there, but you don't. That's not any guarantee.
But you don't know because they all came back into the armory, were
Right.
serviced, and then
out.
went back out again. So they may have come back from Italy, like the carbines. The one that I bought came back from the Italian police. 38,000 of them. Of course, they weren't used. But
you
all
can
right.
track
That's enough of the Italian jokes.
you can track the number on the receiver, but you can also track the date that it was rebarreled if you look in the right place.
Right.
But not all the parts are trackable.
Yeah, there's so many books people have read, written 3-inch thick books about the M1, and
there were over 6 million of them made.
Yeah.
And they're still making them. So
you're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560. The Answer. I guess the next question that comes to mind is if you take the CMP clinic and you get the certificate, you go and you buy the gun. Are there matches? I mean, do you just go out and shoot it for fun, or what's available to you then?
Well, we have the clinics. One of the unique things about our clinic is the fact that if you're interested in one of these firearms and you don't have one, we make them available at the clinic. Your choice of either carbine.
But once you've done that, though, then what? Like at Aurora Sportsman's Club, is there some place you could shoot? See, this is called a lead-in, Frank. We're trying to set you up.
Gotcha. CMP and its affiliated clubs, ASC is an affiliated club, put on various types of events throughout the year across the country, whether it be long gun shoots, pistol shoots, air rifle shoots. Again, we want to bring in the younger folks so you don't start them necessarily with the high-powered stuff.
So there's opportunity if you have a grand to go and shoot it. There's matches. There's things that you can do with it.
Right.
The national matches in Camp Perry every summer.
Sure.
That's why we don't conduct the clinics during July and August.
Because that's Perry.
That's Perry.
Exactly. We have about 30 seconds left. My understanding is they're always looking for people to go to help and disassemble them, right? Can you give me 25 seconds of that?
Well, we had a unique opportunity about 5 years ago to go to Anniston, and we knocked down stuff that came from South America and other places and that were really in bad shape. But due to the really low volume of firearms available right now through CMP, they're not allowing anybody to go and help them out.
Okay. So that the whole program is ended.
Yeah, that was a courtesy thing to our club, primarily because we had folks in the club that had excellent relationship with Orist and the folks at CMP. So it was a unique experience.
Great. We're going to be back after these few messages to wrap up the show. We'll do a little wrap-up on the CMP program and tell you about next week. And you're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560, The Answer. I'm David Lombardo, president of Safer USA, Chicagoland's most popular firearm training school. We continue to offer our popular home protection and concealed carry seminar every month. This 8-hour seminar covers everything you need to know to safely and legally use a firearm for both concealed carry and home invasion, and qualifies you for Florida and Utah concealed carry permits good in about 30 states. Be sure to call and ask how we can help you raise funds for your organization or provide a guest speaker. We're also offering the NRA Basic Pistol Course and our Tactical Pistol 1 and 2. As always, I offer private one-on-one instruction for Basic Pistol, Chicago Firearm Certification, and Basic Home Defense. For further information, please call 877-954-3030 or go to saferusa.com. Safer USA, choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
That's 877-954-3030 or saferusa.com.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560, The Answer, with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. We're talking about the Civilian Marksmanship Program. Our guests are Frank Bernstein and Rich Smith from the Aurora Sportsmen's Club. So, what, I actually forgot what we...
You had a call.
We're going to ask about the prices.
This is really bad.
The price range.
The price range. Nicholas, this has been one of those days. We were at the outdoor show all day, and my brain is fried. I apologize. Nicholas on Facebook said, I think Frank already answered this, but what is the price range from low to high that one should expect on an M1?
Well, they started around $650 for rack grade, and then they go on up ballistically, depending. It's like collector cars, high option, low production kind of thing. Collector grades start at $1,400. Sniper stuff is $2,500. And
through CMP.
Through CMP.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
And certain rifles, they only auction. You can't buy them.
Cool. So, in conclusion, tell us a little bit in terms of how people could get a hold of you. If they're interested in doing this, how do they get a hold of you? How do they enroll in one of these courses?
Our contact information, you can reach us on the web at aurorasc.org and click on CMP. Or if you have any questions and you want to leave us a message on our phone, call us at 815-264-9000, extension 27.
Okay. Aurora SC for Sportsmen's Club. So Aurora like the town, SC like Sierra Charlie.org.
That's correct.
Got it.
And click on CMP.
When do we have the next one coming up? Do you know offhand?
Okay, well, our next activity is the M1 carbine cleaning activity, Saturday, February the 9th, from 1 to 4. Our AR cleaning is Saturday, March the 9th, from 1 to 4. Our clinics start in April, and it's generally works about the fourth Sunday, but we work around holidays. So April 28th, May 19th, June 23rd, September 22nd, and October 27th. They're all on Sundays, and that information is all on the website.
And they do tend to fill, don't they?
They fill quickly. So if on the call-in, call early and often, because we've got 3 lines going, and it's nonstop on
like
that
voting
Saturday.
in Chicago.
Yeah.
Call-in is between 9 and 10 the Saturday before the event.
Right.
So it's first come, first served then.
That's right.
It is.
And you do not have to be a member of the club.
No, it's open to the public.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank, Tim and I would like to thank our guests, Frank Bernstein, Rich Smith. Thank you very much for coming, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. We'd like to thank Don Moran from the Illinois State Rifle Association, Tim Montague, our technical consultant, Robin Zeeland is our call screener, Doug is on the board. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Illinois Gun Works, Pelcher's Shooter Supply, Illinois State Rifle Association, our website developer 31 Moons, and Safer USA. Next week, Tim, next week, we have the Reverend Eric Wallace, a very interesting gentleman. He puts out a conservative newsletter, and he's running for Jesse Jackson's seat.
Yes, we met him down in Kankakee at the Gotcha Outdoor Show a couple of weeks ago. A very, very intelligent man who had some great ideas and a solid Second Amendment supporter.
It is indeed. And so we're very much looking forward to having him on next week and kind of picking his brain about the African-American community. And one of the questions that I really want to ask is, when I lived in Louisiana, every African-American family owned firearms, and now you come up here and it's such a rare thing to find. So There's some interesting subjects that we can get into with him.
Yeah, he's very, very nice man. I think he would do a good job as an elected official.
Particularly in that district.
Yes.
Absolutely right. So, until then, we would like you to friend On Target Radio on Facebook. And, Tim, say good night.
Good night.
We hope you'll be back next Sunday at 9 p.m. for more On Target Radio. And thanks, Mike, for making all this happen. And here's a little nifty bumper music to soothe your ears.